Hello there, welcome to today's webinar. We're going to get started in a minute, and while we wait for other folks to join, please take a moment to get familiar with the controls and especially the Q&A button. If you have any questions as we're going along, please put them in the Q&A and we'll do our best to answer them at the end of today's session. With that said, let's get going. Our topic, as you may know, revolves around cybersecurity for higher education. Let's jump into some stats real quick. Let's look at some stats from a report published back in August 2022. Of all the industries attacked by cybercriminals, education has the highest number of cyber attacks and experiencing more than double the attacks seen in other industries. Now this trend is continuing too, with education facing an average of over 2,100 attacks per organization every week in the third quarter. That's an increase of 18% compared to the third quarter last year. If you think about it, there are several reasons for this situation. Education, like any other industry, is challenged by access control and trying to maintain a vast number of facilities and students. Jumping into some recent news events, we hear about stories of hijacking, hacking, ransomware, and it's happening to schools, universities, and research facilities as well. Educational institutions are getting basically infiltrated, full data theft from student data that's being sold on the dark web, and the worst is education funds are being stolen. These threats are real and they're happening all around the world. Let's look at a few. In Europe, confidential data from 14 UK schools were leaked online by hackers following the attack that took place in 2022. Leaked documents include students' SCN information, passport scans, staff pay scales, and contract details. This information was eventually leaked after the impacted schools refused to pay the hackers' ransomware demand. Now, if you look in the US, similar story happened compared to the UK story. Approximately 45,000 students plus school employee and service providers were affected. This confidential data was taken that included social security numbers, date of birth, employee IDs, and OSIS numbers, and the 9-digit numbers issued to all students who attend this public school in New York City. Next, hackers actually stole $6 million via multiple attack methods, and they were able to gain access to the email of New Haven's Public Schools Chief Operating Officer in late May. And finally, a very interesting one involving IoT device where a bulletin board was compromised by a student. Now we look at another region of the world. In Latin America, there was a district that was subject to a phishing scam. And basically, the school officials said the intrusion started with a staff member's personal account, and then which the perpetrator used to gain access to the district's page, and then the hackers actually removed administrative rights from the page from the Mexico school district personnel, locking out school officials out of their accounts. Very interesting and unfortunate events with hacking stories. Now let's look at how these hacks were possible and what challenges educational institutions actually face. Now, there are three major security challenges that educational institutions face, and they can actually be related back to the news stories we just spoke about. First is the challenge with distributed workforce and managed devices. Looking back at the $6 million hack, hackers gained access to the school's COO's email, and hackers were able to impersonate both the head administrator and the vendors to create fraudulent accounts. And they were able to insert themselves into email conversations, ultimately stealing the funds through 6 electronic transfers. Now, this was clearly a case where better faculty access control and restricting unmanaged devices could have helped. If you look at it, the rise of remote and distributed work in the education sector introduces new challenges to educational providers. Faculty and staff accessing sensitive information at various locations can increase the risk of unauthorized access. In the case of workforce identities and devices, institutions are actually able to secure these more than unknown devices of the general public. But the challenge of interoperability and productivity in this highly secure environment remains a challenge. Now, looking at the topic of personal and unmanaged devices. These devices actually bring another risk, right? They might lack the up-to-date security software, making them very susceptible to malware and other cybersecurity threats. Educational institutions are challenged to implement robust BYOB or bring your own device policies because by nature, campus is open to the public. Traditional managed device strategies such as mandatory security software and device registrations are ineffective because they simply are not possible. Therefore, all the security requirements for institutions fall on its network security solutions. Now, second challenge is with student data in unprotected virtualized environment. Back to the story of New York City School District leaking 45,000 student data. Although there weren't many details with this particular leak, we can actually speculate how a lack of east-west traffic control could have led to this. Most modern security emphasizes north-south traffic control, and we've seen a much larger, much more frequency with data breaches associated with east-west now, especially in education. Now, the reason being, many educational institutions are going through virtualization to store the vast amount of sensitive data, including student records, financial information, and research data. Now, the high density of valuable personal information makes these institutions even a higher attractive target for cybercriminal. However, most deployments do not include any type of east-west traffic protection. Looking at the third challenge is with poor visibility into legacy campus network and assets. We can actually tie this back to the interesting IoT Internet of Things hack where a student took over a bulletin board. We can clearly see there's a lack of visibility into certain parts of the school's network and assets. This is often a result of disparate deployment of various security devices across the network for the purpose of single point detection defense. Now, IoT, OT is a great example where often comprises of products from different vendors, and these devices can create islands or silos of network security and bring high operations and maintenance costs. This type of construct can also lead to security fragmentation, basically a lack of ability to share information and coordinate operations, as well as an inability to accurately visualize changes in security conditions and effectively respond to these threats, attacks, and abnormal behavior, as you've seen with this particular IoT attack. Essentially compounding the fact that the campus often includes legacy networks and assets. So summarizing the prior three slides, we saw that the three major challenges are with distributed student, faculty, and a managed device. Second one being student data in unprotected virtualized environment. And third, poor visibility into legacy campus network and assets. Now, fortunately, there are ways to combat these three major challenges. Solutions include, in the following order, zero trust network access, segmentation and isolation, and also XDR for monitoring are all technologies that can be used to address these three major challenges that educational institutions face. With that said, let's jump into ZTNA or Zero Trust Network Access first. This definition from Gartner actually explains what Zero Trust Network really means, right? It's a product or services that creates an identity and context-based logical access control boundaries around an application or set of applications. The applications are hidden from discovery and access is restricted via a trusted broker to a set of named entities. The broker verifies identity, context, and policy adhesion of the specific participants before allowing access and prohibits lateral movement elsewhere in the network. Basically, this removes application access from the public visibility and creates a reduced attack surface. Looking at COVID-19 is probably the best way to understand the impact for education worldwide. Basically, with COVID-19, it led to significant change with educational institution network and infrastructure. Here are a couple of ways in which university and higher education have evolved in response to the shift to online learning and adoption of bring your own device BYOD policies. First, the shift to online learning with BYOD prompted many universities to embrace that policy. right? They allow students and faculty to use their own personal device for academic activities. This required the implementation of security measures to safeguard sensitive data and to ensure consistent and secure user experience across various devices. Now, VPN implementation is another one. Many universities had to implement or expand their VPN services to ensure secure and encrypted connections for remote access to university resources. This was particularly important for student and faculty accessing sensitive information from off-campus locations. Now, let's look at how these two shifts introduce major challenges for educational institutions. Looking at traditional VPN solutions, they actually perform access authentication one single time when the user first contacts the VPN controller. Now, once authenticated, the end user and endpoint are trusted by default. And basically, the user and the device are essentially inside the network and have visibility to all applications and services in the network, similar to a situation where the user and device were physically inside the traditional network parameter. Now, this means that if a user's login or VPN login credential or VPN-enabled device is breached, the attacker has broad access to discovery and lateral movement throughout the entire network. Now, the foundation of ZTNA is that nothing is trusted and only minimal access is granted to allow any particular transaction to proceed. So unlike earlier technologies, ZTNA is not binary, allow or deny. Instead, various levels of access may be granted or restricted based on the evaluation of the user group, credential, device posture, application configuration, location, reputation, and various additional context-aware attributes of the access request. Look, another shortcoming with traditional VPN solutions is that they have no context. An attacker or malware can easily perform port IP scanning and attack discovered hosts and applications if the user's credential or VPN endpoint is compromised by spam, phishing, or malware. ZTNA solutions do continuous trust evaluation for each access request. A ZTNA agent on the endpoint monitors and evaluates the endpoint status to determine if it is secure to connect. If the endpoint is compromised, access attempts are blocked by the ZTNA gateway. Basically, user and device authentications are fundamental elements of secure access. ZTNA introduces yet another level of security by also taking into consideration the context of the request access and the security posture of the client and adopting the policy appropriately. So by focusing on identity and context, the four things such as user, device, location, application, Zero Trust can allow fine-grained access control to resources and allow secure access in a work from anywhere or remote access world. Zero Trust also covers an environment where entities connect with and collaborate with non-employees, users such as partners and contractors. It also protects an environment of increasing IoT penetration inside enterprise networks, like we saw before. Zero Trust implementations can protect resources anywhere, basically in branches, enterprise data center, home networks, public or private cloud. It has the flexibility to provide different levels of access privileges based on the combination of a large number of attributes, as well as integrating with your existing identity servers. For example, educational institutions can limit their employees, faculty to read only versus write access if their faculty is connecting from an untrusted public Wi-Fi network somewhere outside, or from their personal device deemed to have a marginal security posture, as in, we're not sure if their security software is up to date on the device. The Zero Trust basically approach ensures that educational institutions can minimize their attack surface without impeding their faculty and student productivity. Looking at the way Zero Trust works, it basically blocks all access by default. Nothing is trusted. Resources are not explicitly provisioned for access and are invisible to faculty and students, basically rendering them unreachable and undiscoverable if you don't have access to them. The approach with Zero Trust uses identity credentials of users and devices coupled with a large variety of additional attributes considered along with the context of request interaction. So basically to deny or access either partial access, such as a view only rather than modify, or download only rather than download and upload to critical educational institution resources. So let's put it all together with everything that we've discussed with the typical, potentially here, university online resource diagram. We can see that there are two sets of resources available to students and faculty. You can see on the public open resources side that the controls reside with the access resources. On the right side, with non-public resource, is where zero trust is really required, as there are very privileged data involved. As we've seen earlier, the challenges are usually to help protect sensitive data such as student record, financial information, and research data. Securing remote access, where there's a huge increase with remote learning and remote work. Many educational institutions, faculty and students must access their resources from off-campus locations. So with this, you can protect against cybercrime or cyber threats and meet compliance requirements such as the principle of least privileges to enhance compliance with educational institutions standards. So the organization has more control over how faculty and students use each application and data, and basically can verify all the usage is authorized. With Zero Trust, basically empowers faculty and students to work and access services securely from anywhere, delivering basically VPN support protected against cyber threat environments, visibility and control over user activity, including behavior and application usage. Even application level access control can be provided to only allow authorized user access. Okay, next we're going to cover the topic of segmentation and isolation. Essentially, north to south data protection was once thought as the standard for security, but it's fast becoming clear that this approach is not adequate. A lack of east to west security meant that compromised single system within the parameter could provide a launching pad for a much more serious attack. Let's look at how. So let's take a look at the challenges of cloud security. Essentially, with increasing virtualization of educational institutions, environment with servers, and the shift toward infrastructure as a service, basically traditional network-centric security solutions are simply not sufficient anymore. In the past, securing a traditional data center with hundreds of physical servers will be manageable, but today, one physical server can be linked to hundreds of virtual machines, resulting in thousands of targets that needs basically protection. So this situation presents a significant challenge in terms of maintaining comprehensive security coverage. In addition, intruders can easily gain a foothold by exploiting temporary access tokens or weakness in identity and access management or IAM systems. And once they gain access, they can move laterally and cause a lot of damage. So to overcome these challenges, it is essential to find ways to gain visibility of granular traffic, such as intra-VM or virtual machine communication. In today's educational institution cloud environment, it's not just north-south traffic, which is basically between users and servers, that pose a security problem, right? It's also east-west traffic between virtual machines that share the same data center and physical servers. Now, this creates a challenge as there's a threat to one component or services that can be easily spread to others, putting essentially the entire cloud platform at risk. Now, this is where microsegmentation technology comes in. It's like giving each virtual machine its own security guard so that they're protected individually. And this essentially allows the cloud network to keep things separate and under control without having to control network settings. So solutions such as like Cloud Hive can also detect and block any suspicious east-west connections within the data center, so you can stop threats from spreading around. So when choosing a microsegmentation solution, make sure they've been specifically designed to cater to the unique demands of virtualized data center. The solution should seamlessly integrate to provide visibility and security into virtualized environments. Basically, they need to effectively monitor and address threats between east and west traffic, have the ability to identify and isolate potential threats, malware, data breaches, and other security issues before they can spread across virtual machines. Also make sure that they can provide comprehensive and deep visibility and also be able to scale effectively, allowing educational institutions to easily scale up, basically in terms of demanding or elastic virtualized machines as a need over time. Let's put it all together with what we discussed around microsegmentation with the typical university cloud deployment. Here we have a heavily virtualized environment, and you need to know 3 things about this. First, a complete view of all traffic entering and leaving virtual machines in any monitor, VM, or port group. Also need visualization tools that allow security and network users to easily spot unusual patterns. Or you can actually use the same data for capacity planning as well. So it's not just for security, you can actually use it for other things as well. Now, second, you need to find and control for precise blocking of lateral attacks, right? Basically, you need to detect and block suspicious east-west connections within the data center or between hosts in different data centers. So now, you should also be able to view intra-virtual machine traffic as well. Application awareness is needed as well to provide maximum protection while minimizing false positive. Lastly, when choosing microsegmentation solution, it's important that it is platform agnostic because you want maximum flexibility. So for example, drop-in support for VMware or OpenStack allows for the same protection framework everywhere, regardless of the underlying cloud platform. This allows cloud security teams to create a standardized set of policies and enforcement that spans public and private cloud environments. Now, on to number 3, with monitoring. One of the biggest challenges in security, especially for educational institutions, is visibility across the entire IT ecosystem. Now, let's take a look at how we can gain visibility in everything at a university campus. So looking at this slide, on the left-hand side here, you can see the huge amount of devices that needs to be monitored, and they keep growing. This makes it very hard to see where the threats are because you can't see your full infrastructure and you can't see all your assets. To further add to the problem, we're also reaching a point of visibility saturation, meaning that there are so many products that can all provide visibility to a certain degree, but none of them can communicate with each other. This is often the result of disparate deployment of various security devices across the network for the purpose of single-point detection and defense. So as a result, we have silent data, false positives, visibility saturation, and the complexity of threats. Now, that's a stat I'd like to put up here, which is 70% of large entities like educational institutions have taken over a week in order to detect things properly. This actually becomes a problem since multi-stage and multi-layer threats can usually leverage a longer dwell time before it carries out malicious purposes. Now, let's take a look at a typical educational institution campus network here. Taking a look at this slide here, just for example, this is a typical university campus, and they offer a wide, diverse an array of services to students and faculty that they often resemble like small cities. Not only do this type of campus maintain many offices and buildings, they also connect student housing, have their own police, fire, and medical departments. Additionally, universities like this are like cities and are implementing smart technologies to help optimize the college facility and operational systems. IoT also is being widely used and deployed, monitoring control systems like lighting, crosswalks, HVAC, and more. And lastly, the campus is entirely connected using high-speed wireless and can support high-quality, demanding application. So from a cybersecurity perspective, the campus, student, and staff represents kind of like encompasses basically the entire attack surface area for cybercriminal. Specific attacks or targets are often touch points where there are opportunities for interactions with, university assets. For example, common touch points includes infrastructure such as networks and operational systems, web applications, IoT devices, third-party products like software applications, and again, student and faculty. Let's take a look at where the threats are. So in this slide, we're mapping out cyber attacks typically encountered by like a university to the assets being targeted. As shown, students and faculty are likely to confront email-based threats like malware, phishing, ransomware. We kind of saw those earlier in some of our news articles because this type of attack is easy to perform and is often successful. IoT and operational systems will be targeted to impair the university from performing critical functions. Web applications will be targeted because they are publicly available and easy to attack. Universities, kind of like cities, will use many third-party products, making them exposed to supply chain attacks and vulnerabilities. And also with cloud environments deployed so widely to support universities, there will be a likely target to block their services as well. So at this point, you might be wondering, how do you effectively handle so many assets and so many data points in a university campus? Well, we have a solution for you. So an XDR, Extended Detection and Response platform, can help with the challenges we just spoke about. By design, XDR is flexible. It should be easy to integrate with regards to dealing with extensive technological sprawl. It basically can integrate with as many data sources as possible and contextualizes the metadata, which then can give security teams the ability to generate insight from across the entire IT and OT environment. Moreover, detection and response becomes cross-layered across these data points, which can help mitigate the tunnel vision that sometimes come from traditional methods such as EDR or endpoint detection and response. Now, you can see the 4 points on the left-hand side here. And XDR is able to provide comprehensive security posture monitoring for the entire network, and it can offer threat tracing and forensics. It also encompasses ability of AI-driven security analytics to basically help find advanced threats and abnormal behavior. And of course, it can provide risk prediction and automated incident response as well. These capabilities basically can help security teams reduce alert fatigue, prevent data leaks, and also does a good job of maximizing kind of like the stiff budgets that security teams often have to work with. One of the main things you need to evaluate is if, with the XDR solution, is if it's open or closed platform. So an open XDR is different from closed XDR in a way that the former doesn't require you to stick to any single vendor because the platform is open and works with any solution that you have in place and then offer full control over the complete kind of like security stack. Now, usually it's better to have the option to integrate with everything as you want, to have like third-party integration. So open platform is usually a better way to go. And make sure that open platform provides seamless integration with everything in terms of your third-party devices as well. It will translate third-party logs in the standard log format. It should also support integrating with devices over RESTful APIs or SSH. This not only reduces a blind spot in your security operation, but also improves detection accuracy, enabling you to defend against cyber threats more efficiently and effectively. Another component with XDR to evaluate is the threat detection and analysis approach, where they should involve advanced models for detecting and analyzing cyber threats. So unknown malware family detection and abnormal behavior detection, along with complete cyber kill chain, is necessary. So basically, you can use AI to track and respond to threats across all stages of an attack when needed. Now, threat correlation analytics, which uses AI power algorithms to analyze multiple data sources and potential threats based on patterns of behavior, is also crucial. Now, putting it back all together with educational institutions, again, with distributed faculty, workforce, and students, ephemeral usage of resources that is inherent on open campuses, monitoring and enforcement of network traffic policies are actually very crucial. Now, with an XDR solution like Hillstone iSource, educational institutions can collect various types of data such as threat logs, incident reports from almost any source across Hillstone's product stack, as well as third-party products. So by standardizing and integrating heterogeneous data across components, including cloud, network, and endpoints, iSource basically can break down security information silos that are very common within educational institution environments. So it not only brings full security visibility with far better and fewer blind spots, but it also improves detection accuracy and provides effective and efficient defense against threats. Now, let's take a look at some of the case studies where education institutions have deployed Hillstone to address their security challenges. So let's take a look at this case study at a top university in China. So in order to support rapid growth of network traffic in a flexible manner, this university set up a private cloud based on VMware. Basically, they want to transform their physical network into a cloud platform to serve campus staff and students. Each department is allocated its own virtual resources, including virtual machine storage and networking. Most of applications are being migrated to this cloud, such as webmail, online course selection system, and online accessible education. So even though a strong defense system has been in place at the perimeter, the IT team was concerned that they did not have visibility and control for the traffic within the cloud environment. Again, this is the concept of also known as east to west traffic. Now, how Hillstone helped was they provided Cloud Hive to help the security team gain visibility within the cloud, as well as to stop a lateral movement of malware if it was ever introduced. Basically, it enabled Cloud Hive application identification engine, where not only provides visibility of traffic between virtual machines, but also identifies application from the traffic. Cloud Hive's Insight feature compiles application, threat, time, as well as the relationship between virtual machines and presents it in a topological format. Again, with Cloud Hive microsegmentation technology, the IT team was able to execute multi-dimensional fine-grained access control between the virtual machines in order to secure virtual machines and to block attacks originating from virtual machines. And lastly, the Cloud Hive IPS engine can effectively prevent malware spreading between VM once a virtual machine is infected. Great, let's look at Dubai International School for a case study. There's around 3,500 students part of this school, and they were facing daily challenge, or I should say the IT team was facing daily challenge to deliver uninterrupted access to online resources from an education perspective, while preventing cybercrime and also curbing inappropriate online behavior. So the IT team was having issues with their legacy network solution, which faced performance issues as well as reliability in providing logs and report. On a given day, students and faculty didn't always have access to critical websites and online services to be able to complete their tasks due to network issues. In addition, beyond access to authorized sites, some students would risk gaining access to inappropriate sites that were not permitted, or social media networks that were not only permitted access outside of academic hours. So after deploying Hillstone network, basically Dubai International School gained a broader and deeper visibility in the network. And here are some benefits. So the firewall basically deployed enabled web filtering for students and staff traffic, as well as blocking specific applications such as WhatsApp and YouTube that are not likely to be used during academic hours, especially through proxies or torrents. In addition to gaining visibility, network performance also improved for the school. This was a result of firewalls being connected to the core switch from the LAN site. And next, there's quality of service that help school IT teams control network traffic and limit upload and download speed to make sure that students and faculty can access critical websites all the time without interruption. And lastly, the firewall use was to protect and manage ERP servers used by teachers to log their activity and to upload homework and other related or course-related material. Here's another case study involving a prestigious university in China who was facing numerous challenges, including managing the security of assets across many information systems and large amounts of data. So their ability to identify and remediate vulnerabilities was also lacking, and they needed additional protection against the rising frequency of external threats, including malware, remote access trojans, and viruses. Now, using these requirements as a baseline, Hillstone Networks was able to stand up a modern security operations center for this university. Basically, the university with Hillstone was able to continuously monitor environments to effectively identify and block advanced threats. Now, with a platform of fully integrated solutions from Hillstone, it included next generation firewall, breach detection system, iSource, XDR, and CloudHive. This university was able to transform its cybersecurity program into a world-class operations center in just a matter of months. This is the power of Hillstone's proven integrated security model. So, with all that's been said, I want to thank you for your time. For more information, please use the above link to download case studies and collateral that go deeper into how Hillstone Zero Trust Network Access, XDR, and CloudHive can help enhance security of your educational institution. Okay, we looked at some great case studies with educational institutions addressing security and also networking challenges at the same time. Now, we covered quite a bit. Thanks for sticking with us. In summary, we looked at three major challenges that educational institutions face. They are, first, distributed student, faculty, and unmanaged devices. Second, student data in unprotected virtualized environment. Third, poor visibility into legacy campus network and assets. And we also dove into the three Hillstone solutions with zero trust, microsegmentation, and monitoring with XDR that can address those challenges. Now, let's take a look at the Q&A to see if we have any questions. So give me 1 second here. Okay, we do have a few questions. Let's answer a few. First, do we still need XDR or we already have EDR and NDR solution? Yes. Now, even if you have EDR, which specializes in protecting endpoints, basically NDR focuses on network-based threats. XDR extends this coverage to also include cloud services and more, just as what we saw with educational institutions. There's cloud, there's legacy campus network and assets, right? So basically everything that a typical network or entity or education institution might possess. Next question. Does microsegmentation only protect or can it help with performance monitoring? Oh, interesting. Great question. So yes, actually, I don't know about all the other solutions in the market, but specifically with Hillstone CloudHive, there is a handy feature called Service Performance Monitoring, SPM. So this feature helps monitor network services, gives basically performance metrics on basically selected path with network and services for east-west traffic. So I think as we have seen some of the cases before, some of the happy customers are actually looking into both enhancing security and also network performance, right? So the CloudHive solution does provide that. Next one here, back to XDR. Is XDR suitable for organizations with small security teams, or is it primarily for large enterprise? Well, actually, it's suitable for both, right? Both small and large enterprise. While larger enterprise can benefit from its ability to provide like a comprehensive view of complex IT, it's also suitable for smaller teams because threats rarely pay attention to the size and maturity of an organization. So XDR is an integrated and comprehensive solution that basically can help smaller teams streamline the operation with like fewer tools. So basically can get more done with less. Okay, I'm going to answer one last one. This one actually goes into, looks like zero trust. So is zero trust a standalone solution? Great question. So zero trust is not a standalone solution, right? But it can work in concert with existing network security solutions like your NG firewall. Now, with Hillstone, there's roughly like 5 components to it. There's a zero trust gateway, which basically is your existing NG firewall platform. So it basically broker zero trust authentications and transactions, and access can be switched seamlessly between mutually backed up gateways. So if you have multiple NG firewall, it can go back and forth. So that's the first component. Second component would be your zero trust endpoint. Basically, an endpoint agent aids in user and device authentication, like we kind of saw before. We want to identify the user and the device. So it can basically track the security posture, such as OS level patches and updates, right? This is where we can ensure a certain level of up-to-date security patches with maybe BYOD. And then the next component would be an enterprise identity server, right? Basically, we work with existing enterprise directories containing user groups and role to integrate with the zero trust solution. And again, this is going back to the need for identity for a zero trust solution. And then applications, right? Basically, these are applications that you have. can configure to understand the application configuration and knowledge, so that during this process of building out the network, we're aware of those applications. And so during the process of authentication, we can help you map out who should have access to those applications, who shouldn't. And then lastly, a ZTNA manager or Zero Trust manager, basically a central management point coordinating all the aspects and elements of a Zero Trust solution. Okay, those are some good questions. Thank you so much for participating in this webinar. This has been a great session on Hillstone's education solution. I'd like to remind you or offer you the opportunity to follow Hillstone on LinkedIn. You can take out your mobile phone and scan this QR code you see on the right-hand side, and you'll be taken directly to the Hillstone LinkedIn page where you can subscribe and follow the page for product updates, news, and other features. Now, if you have any other questions beyond the ones we just answered, feel free to send it to us either via the email, and feel free to call as well. There's a phone number on the left-hand side. And again, there's a real platform approach here, so we didn't cover what you wanted today. Chances are Hillstone has something for you. So again, please connect on LinkedIn with us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again so much.